writings of Paramhansa Yogananda. And once again, I have a poem taken from the library of currently unpublished poems. This was published in August of 1937, and Yogananda entitles the poem simply Freedom. Brave cords bind me hand and foot, yet lo, I am free, ever free. Disease, try your tortures, yet I am free, ever free. Health, try your lures, yet I am free, ever free. Death, destroy my body prison if you will, yet I am free, ever free. Long chains of desires forged in the incarnations, in the furnaces of incarnations, have tried to bind me, but I escaped from life to life, and I am at last free, ever free. I enter through the rainbow into the free skies. I am free, ever free. None can bind me unless I bind myself. None can free me unless I know I am free. When I know naught exists to ever bind me, then I know I am free, ever free. Well, okay, are we free, ever free? Many of you probably remember the story in which somebody asked Yogananda in person, well, when he said words to this effect, well, I'm not free, am I, sir? And he said, well, only because you say you're not free. And it's a happy thought that we can be free by saying we're free, but of course it's probably a little more complicated than that, isn't it? One of the things that last night some of us were sharing inspirations from this wonderful book and the life of this great saint, Sister Gyanamata, in the book God Alone. And I was struck in rereading parts of the book in preparation for the satsang that we did, just how unique each and every one of us are. What was in my mind specifically is that the next great disciple of Yogananda's this group is going to study is that of his most advanced disciple, Rajasi Janakananda, known as sometimes as Saint Lin. And he was from Kansas, a self-made millionaire, and on like that. I don't want to talk about his life story, but what came to my mind was the contrast between them. Because in essence, or at least compared to us, those two souls are free. And so, yet, Yogananda said, and he resolved one of the great debates and conundrums and paradoxes of the spiritual path down through the ages. In fact, he brought to a kind of synthesis or closure or deeper understanding a great many of the great paradoxes of spiritual questions and teachings over the years. But this one, he said, when the soul merges back into the infinite spirit, the question has been, so Christianity talks about keeping your ego and strumming harps for a rather long time. And a Buddhist might say, well, you're just annihilated, buddy. You're just out of here. You're gone. And so on. So the Abrahamic traditions either don't believe in an afterlife or believe in the afterlife of the ego, the body, even the physical body being resurrected. So this particular debate, Yogananda said that in God consciousness, in cosmic consciousness, yes, we are merged. The wave merges into the great ocean of spirit, of consciousness. And yet, what is also in the great ocean of consciousness is everything. What is infinity if it doesn't include past, present, future? And therefore, the lifetimes of our misguided identity in lower life forms, as well as especially in the human form, is retained in the Akashic record, as some people call it, in the infinity of spirit. And thus it was that Yogananda and later Swami Kriyananda, our teacher, would sometimes say that even though a soul has merged back in God and perhaps has come into new forms, that a devotee with sufficient devotion praying to that former form, if you will, can still draw out of the ether, frosted, how did Yogananda put it? Frozen by devotion's frost, can bring into actual physical manifestation or envision the form of a beloved guru, saint, etc., who may have moved on in different incarnations. And so in resolving the conundrum between, most of us, the law of survival, we think of it as a Darwinian thing, but it's more than that. God is described in the ancient text, and specifically by the Adi Shankaracharya, the first Shankaracharya in the history of Hinduism, as Sat Chidanandam, ever existing. And so the impulse to survive, to maintain ourselves, although we attach it to the human body and the personality, is not as misguided as some spiritual people might imagine, because our souls, we are ever existing, no different than God, ever changeless, ever pure, ever perfect. And so when I was reflecting about Gyanamata's life, what really struck me in the contrast with Rajasi, only because of their relationship in terms of Yogananda, not specifically, because I could say the same things about any number of saints, but notwithstanding their freedom, they retain yet their individuality. Yogananda said every atom is dowered with individuality. And so when I was reading this, she was talking about little gifts that Yogananda had given her, quite frankly, more of a female perspective. Rajasi would never have talked that way. It would never interest me, for example, though I might treasure it secretly in my heart if he had given me something. So you see our unique expressions. She was she, and the various ways that she spoke, I appreciate, and she's a saint, but it would not be how I would express myself. And so that's a beautiful thought. I thought, how perfect that we are who we are. And when we study the lives of saints, we think, oh, how beautiful, but we too often get attached to the outward expression. I even think of the pictures of her in that costume, those robes, and that doesn't appeal to me whatsoever. I grew up with all of that. But Swami Kriyananda, when he met her for the first time, thought she was one of those old biddies who hang around churches. I grew up with a bunch of those things. And in many ways she was, and yet she was a saint. So you see, we can be who we are with our foibles and our little thises and that's and the interests that we have, and maybe we like sports or what have you. Swami used to make fun of the boys, all of us who were young as boys in the ashram of Ananda village, with our interest in sports. Frankly, I have no interest in sports personally, but a lot of my peers did, and even though they are today saintly souls. And so this is part of the fun, the zoo of incarnations. The zoo of this world is the many interests that we have, which so long as we are centered in the self, can be perfectly legitimate. We can be married, we can be celibate, we can be whatever it is. All of those are simply accretions to the soul made manifest in a universe that is infinite in its expression. And that alone is cause for joy, for appreciation, for respect. And yet we can be free. And indeed, we are free in our souls. And to make that affirmation every morning, I am awake, I get up and I do awake and ready. I might change that. I'm free. So let us be free. All right, that's it for today.